If they could
Agree.
see the body parts just in a pile on a tray, they'd be against it.
Well, I think isn't this correct that one of the ways that we've kind of curbed abortion rates in some respect is through seeing how you saw the production of sonograms today, right?
Yes.
Sometimes, and the public that's pro-choice doesn't want us to see these things. I thought, what's more unimaginable than taking a late third-term abortion, which seems like almost every elected Democrat official is for, and inducing that birth and then shooting the baby in the head. What's more unimaginable than that, than just putting it out of its misery, are the current practices. And if people saw what we actually do in late term abortions, I don't know that there's anything more inhumane ever.
Well, I remember when all the, Black Lives Matter stuff was going on, and all the, stuff about police brutality and whatever. And I support our police. Whatever. But I remember seeing some of the videos. Okay. I remember when Philando Castile was he was shot by the police. Okay. Now look, I don't think the police did anything wrong. I think he was within his rights, whatever. But I watched the video. Okay. And I saw that man get shot and killed by the police. Okay. Even though I supported the police officer in that decision, I watched the video. I cried when I saw that man die. Why? Because I watched a guy die, right? Like, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken for that man because I watched somebody die, right? The reason that abortion continues to escalate, the reason that people defend abortion the way they do, is because you do not see the death of the victim, right? The reason that there was so much outrage during all the police stuff and the BLM is because you saw somebody die. So right or wrong, no matter what people believed or didn't believe or whatever they thought about BLM or whatever, the reason there was so much outrage is because you couldn't help but sympathize with the guy that died. You couldn't help but sympathize with the man that was shot and killed because you literally saw him take his last breath. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was the same thing with the George Floyd thing. George Floyd was a terrible person. He was an awful, awful person. Okay? But the reason that there was such an outrage, the reason that there was such an uproar, was because you literally saw him die. And so people were crying out for justice because you saw a man die. Right? The reason that there's such a movement to perpetuate and escalate violence in the womb is because you do not see the death of the victim.
Out of sight, out of mind.
You don't think about it. You don't see it. But if people saw what I saw, if people saw a 15-week-old baby, its arms and legs getting ripped off of its body, which is exactly what happens in a 15-week abortion. Like, the doctor takes he takes forceps because it won't fit through a suction tube. He takes forceps and he violently pulls the arms and legs from that baby's torso. If they could see that, they would be against it. If they could see the body parts just in a pile on a tray, they'd be against it. But they don't see it. And they don't want to see it. Because we live in such a wounded culture where 1 in 3 women have had abortions. And it's a lot easier for a wounded culture to say, Oh, it's not killing a baby. It's a nothing. It's just cells. It's not even human. It's not murder. It's not killing. It's a lot easier to say that than for a wounded culture to say, oh my gosh, I've been part of murder. I've murdered my child. I've killed my own child. I paid for my grandchild to be killed. I paid for my son to be killed. Whatever it is, it's a lot easier to justify it
Deny
than
it.
to admit to what you've done.
Right. Living in denial.